One.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the January 20th regular meeting of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, would you please read the roll call?
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez.
Present.
Councilman Lees.
Present.
Councilwoman Overby.
Here.
Councilwoman Rogers.
Present.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, liberty, and justice for all. Today's meeting will begin with 7 public hearings. We will be having one public hearing rescheduled. That would be the affordable housing hearing for the overlay on 114. That'll be rescheduled for March 3rd. That'll be followed by a public portion where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. We ask that you mute your TV or computer when you call in so we don't get feedback, and that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. We will be strict on the timing today. That'll be followed by resolutions to offer. But before we get started, we have our town crier, Hugh King, with us. Welcome, Hugh.
Hi. I have some announcements at the end of our research, okay? I'll be quick. Last week, we all got something to investigate about the Montaukets, and we could start, as usual, with Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. And I have to say that the story of Quashawam is fascinating, and I have tremendous respect and admiration for her leadership style.
Wow.
So you had provided, a book to me to find my research from the Long Island Historical Journal. I will say that there's a lot about her, and I'm trying to distill this down so that it makes sense to those listening. So I just want to start. So the recorded history of the Long Island Native Americans is mainly limited to an endless list of references to land deeds and descriptions recorded by 17th century English and Dutch observers. Most entries are too brief to illume the culture, society, and personalities of the indigenous peoples. Moreover, the early observers skewed their accounts with an ethnocentric bias that limits their usefulness. One of the many such shadowy subjects is the life of Quashawam, a sunk squaw of the Montauk from 1664 to 1666. Although her father, Wyandanch, is the best known Native American in Long Island history, and her name appears on deeds and in town records, her character and her role as a leader have been ignored. The position of sunk squaw is poorly understood. Sunk squaw is an Algonquian term first used in the English by Roger Williams, to which he assigned the broad meaning of queen. However, the role of sunk squaw was far from uniform in Algonquian society, the word generally designating a woman who exercised a dominant role in community decision-making. Women took part in many phases of community life. Women helped to organize and supervise training of corn, skins, fish, venison, wampum, tools, and other commodities vital to the Native American economy. An important role played by the Native American women was to provide an adequate food supply for their communities. So the special relationship with the land accorded to women was never really fully comprehended by the European settlers, to whom land ownership was a male prerogative. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, the colonial records of Eastern Long Island show that Shinnecock and Montauk women, Quashawam, for example, played far greater social roles than acknowledged by historians. Now, Quashawam inherited her position from her father, her Wyandanch, and at one point, Quashawam was kidnapped, and the kidnapping is one of Long Island's most famous stories. In his History of East Hampton, David Gardner, a descendant of Lyon Gardner, reported that Quashawam was kidnapped on the night of her nuptials and that her spouse was killed. In October of 1654, Roger Williams of Rhode Island reported the return of the women to the Montauks with the help of the English. About 14 captives were restored upon mediation and desire of ye English. So when Wyandanch, Quashawam's father, died in 1659, and she eventually inherited the authority to make important decisions for the group. But there was uncertainty about Wyandanch's land claims, and that led East Hampton officials to draft a most unusual document, the first to record Quashawam by name. On 11 February 1664, she was approved by the English to be chief sachem over both the Montauk and Shinnecock Indians. So the English recognized Quashawam as a chief sachem because they found her docile and peaceable. But in fairness to Quashawam, she merely continued the policy of accommodation established by Wyandanch, which kept the peace and enabled the Montauk to avoid the fate of the Pequot. And I'm going to be wrapping up. Quashawam soon proved that she could manage the affairs, and evidence of this was her diplomatic skill with the relationship she established with Governor Nichols when he presided over 3 days of meetings with Long Island sachems and town leaders. On October 4th, 1665, an agreement was made between Quashawam and the town of East Hampton in the presence of Governor Nichols, settling longstanding disputes over boundaries and land use at Montauk. Nichols affirmed Quashawam's right to the Montauk homeland on the eastern end of Long Island, an area of about 4,000 acres east of Fort Pond. Quashawam's success in getting the governor to clarify her title and to prevent the erosion of the remaining Montauk lands were important accomplishments. And that's where I'm going to end.
Well, how about that? When you read, the other reason why she's so important is that if you read the town records, very rarely are women put into the town records. When there was a Native American name that came up, they always assumed that it was a male. And that's why the Goody Garlic case was so unusual, because women actually appeared in the town records. And now that we've had Quashawam, let's take a look at the town board.
Right, we have 3 women.
That's right. I don't think that's happened in the history of the town of East Hampton. Okay, Councilman Lee, thank you. Thank you very much, Councilman Gonzalez. That was great.
Pardon me 1 second. I just want to let the board know there was a brief moment where the recording was not on our LTV channel for the past few minutes. It's up now, but it was on YouTube the entire time. My apologies for any interruptions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. David, do you have a...
Well, thank you very much. And just in case anyone didn't hear what Hugh King just said, it is the first time in town board history in which there's 3 women have been elected to the East Hampton Town Council. And I think that's particularly wonderful as a father of 4 women myself. So, Hugh, I
You're
don't know
outnumbered everywhere you go, David.
Well said. Well said.
Yes, I am. So Hugh, I don't know if you brought Samson Oakum to me because I am a Presbyterian of faith or such, but it was very interesting to hear of this. Going back into American history, the Great Awakening was a period of religious revivals that occurred in around the 18th century in America. And it's important to lay this out to tell who Samson Oakum was. It was this period in which people were being exposed to Protestantism more than ever before, while the Great Awakening ended up beginning in England and traveled to America in the 18th century. It's very thought-provoking to look how different groups of people responded to the Great Awakening. And it's particularly interesting to see how the Native Americans responded to this religious revival, and to track where some of the more influential agents responsible for educating Native Americans during the Great Native Americans during the Great Awakening, who they were and where they came from. This is the main focus of what I guess Hugh asked me to do. One of the most important people, the Native American influencers, were Samson Oakum. The Native Americans were already rich and well-established in cultures by the time that the English arrived in America. It is also fascinating to see that the Native Americans' response to the cultural-centric movement that the Great Awakening was. One of these other individuals who worked with Samson Oakum was his name was Eliezer Wheelock, and he was deeply concerned that the declining numbers of Native Americans and that he took on many Native American students. One of these students was Samson Oakum, who was perhaps the most influential revivalist to the Native American community. Samson Oakum was a Mohican Indian, initially from Connecticut, who had converted to Christianity in the early 1760s. He then traveled to East Hampton to preach among the Montaukets. Samson Oakum, again, was introduced by Wheelock through his mother, and he agreed to take Oakum on as a student. When he traveled to Montauk, he began to preach in the schooling and deliver religious education on the Montauk Reservation. He traveled to Montauk initially in 1749. This was immediately after concluding his studies with Wheelock, and remained among the Montauk Indians for many years. Throughout most of the 1950s, Oakum remained among Montauk, but according to Oakum's journal, which is online, it's a tough read, but a nice educational read. He actually went on to mission do missions along the East Coast also during that time frame. Oakum married Mary Fowler, a member of the Montauk Nation, in 1751, which was violating usual customs. Eventually, in 1759, Oakum finally was recommended and accepted for ordination, and he was ordained a Presbyterian minister on August 29, 1979. In 1759, I apologize, I read that wrong. In 1763, Oakum moved back to his father's land on the Mohican Reservation in Montville, Connecticut, where he continued his open schooling and ministry of Mohegan Indians. And he later spent much of his life traveling around the northern part of the eastern seaboard, quite often to preach, and he also preached at times in England. Samson Oakum, again, an educator of Indians during a time of the Great Awakening.
Wow. Well, thank you. Samson Oakum, or Oakum, was sent to England, and the reason he went there was to raise money for a college that was supposed to be for Native Americans. And he raised quite a bit of money, and then he thought he was going to get a teaching position there. But somebody in England named the Earl of Dartmouth gave a whole bunch of funds, so the college was named Dartmouth. And Oakum never got a position there at all. And I think he was the first Native American to have his portrait painted. I'm not sure. And the church that he was ordained in East Hampton, was the church by Guildhall, the 1717 church. Great. Here we go, Hugh, back to it. That is actually noted on a 1935 plaque that's outside of Guildhall, the site of the original town church. Right, that's right. Yes, it is. Thank you. That's great. Supervisor Van Scoyac, you did Wyandanch, right?
I did. Wyandanch was sachem, the Montaukett tribe. He was born in around 1620, and while he was initially considered a minor chief among the Montaukets due to his skill in politics and forming various alliances, he was able to make himself an influential alliance chief in relations between tribes and English settlers. Again, he was born on Long Island about the time that the Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth. And he was influenced, I think, to some degree, according to what I read, by the Pequot War, where colonists nearly eradicated the Pequot tribe. And I think that influenced maybe his perspective, and he tried to be a mediator between English settlers and the native residents, and multiple times intervened. He was credited by Lyon Gardner with having prevented a rebellion by Miantonoma, sometimes of the Narragansetts. Miantonoma supported the English during the Pequot War. and there became a tri-party treaty of peace and friendship between the English, Narragansetts, and the Mohicans. But further on, expansion, by the English tended to spur resentment and cause further friction among those tribes. His increase in I think skill as a mediator and alliance chief was also improved by his diffusing a tense standoff between the Shinnecock tribe and the colonists over the killing of an English woman, which was the result of a retaliation of a murder on a Shinnecock. So he was a peacekeeper. He tried to help people get along and resolve their differences. So he's well known for that as a mediator. Kathy kind of spoke about his daughter and some of the things, so I won't cover that ground again. But later in his life, he continued to gain respect, and he eventually he was obviously a good friend of Lion Gardner's, in that when he died in 1659, he deeded a portion of his land to Lion Gardner, which later became known as the town of Smithtown, and also appointed Gardner as the guardian of his young son. And that's pretty much what I have for now.
Yeah, the Wyandanch is a good example of how the English would deal with the Indians. There were 4 sachems out here. The Shinnecock sachem, the one on Shelter Island, there's one on Southold, and then there's Wyandanch. And Gardner and others would make Wyandanch, or made him the but the leader of the pack, so then they could only have to deal with him. And that was typical of the English. They would elevate someone to a certain status, and then rather than dealing with the whole tribe, they would just deal with that one individual. For example, when Lion Gardner purchased his island, he purchased it from the Shelter Island sachem. He didn't purchase it from Wyandanch. And of course, with everything else that's been written, most of the history of the Montaukets and other Native Americans wasn't written by Native Americans. It was written by the English. So if people have corrections to what we've said so far, please get a hold of me, and we'll mention it next time. Okay, Councilwoman Overby,
I had George Fowler, and he continues to be important in the lives of people in East Hampton. George Fallow is a Montauk Indian, born and raised at the Indian Fields as the ancestral village of the Montaukets in Montauk. He was born in 1860 and he died in 1931. We know him best at this moment because of the house that's called the Fowler House. The Fowler House was moved from Indian Field in Montauk to the area known as Freetown in East Hampton. The contract that was between George Fowler, Maria Farrow, Wyandanch Farrow, and Arthur Benson was signed in 1885, and it said that the Indians are to receive a payment of $210 and an annuity of $240 and 12 acres of land at Freetown, formerly known as the Kelly Land, for the construction of their houses. There seems to be a little bit of dispute as to whether the house was actually moved from Indian Field or constructed on site in 1885, but it does appear that 1885 was the time that it was constructed. George Fowler himself, I'll talk about a little bit about the house. It's a salt box style house. It's now owned by the town of East Hampton. It once belonged, as we know, to George Lewis Fowler and his wife, Sarah Melissa Horton. George Fowler worked as a gondolier and gardener for Thomas Moran, whose Main Street house is in East Hampton and has now undergone complete renovation, is a National Historic Landmark. That is, there's a lot more information on the house itself and the family. It seemed to be generational, the house. Many his daughters and son also lived in the house, and was restored rather recently. And so it's really a bright light in the history of East Hampton.
Yeah, I was going to mention that the first lecture for the East Hampton Historical Society, they're celebrating their 100th anniversary this year, the East Hampton Historical Society, even though it was last year. And the first lecture is going to be next Friday at the East Hampton Library. And it's going to be the Thomas and Mary Nimmo Moran House. And as Councilwoman Overby said, George Fowler was the gardener for the Thomas Morans and Mary Nimmo Moran. And you know, he was also the gardener at Home Sweet Home Museum. How about that? Okay, Councilwoman Rogers.
Yes, Mr. King, my first assignment, and I would like to just note that I looked up Stephen Farrow, who is Stephen Talk, also known as Stephen Talkhouse, and saw a number of sources, but I took my information from Jeremy with a J, native.com, and that this research was done by Jeremy Dennis of the Shinnecock tribe, and on that website, he has documented many of the indigenous people who are known to the area. So that's where I took my information from. Stephen Farrow, who is also known as Stephen Talkhouse, and before I get started, I'm sure everyone knows about Stephen Talkhouse, the music and bar in Amagansett, a great place of gathering. But what was interesting in my research is that Stephen Farrow, whose iconic photograph is on the back wall there, rarely drank. So it would be interesting to see what he thought of the Talkhouse. He was born in North Springs, traditionally known as Amagansett, at Molly's Hill, which the East Hampton town placed a historical marker in 1976. His dates are 1821 and 1879, and he is a direct lineal descendant of the great Sachem Wyandanch of 1650. He was a person of an exceptional person of great ability, admired by all who knew him. He had careers as a whaler, hunter, a circus walker, a champion cross-country walker, and was said to have gone gold mining in California in 1849. As a child, he was sold into indentured servitude for the sum of $40, $1 for each pound that he weighed. At the age of 13, he ran away to Sag Harbor, where he secured a berth on a whaling ship bound for the South Pacific. In 1849, the ship landed in San Francisco, and that was when, lured by the riches of gold rush, Stephen spent the next several years panning for gold in California. When or how he returned to the East Coast is unknown, but during the Civil War, he served with the Union Army, the Company G of the 29th Connecticut Volunteers. We do know that by 1867, Stephen was back on Long Island, where he earned the reputation as the fastest walker on the East End, regularly making trips between Montauk and Bridgehampton in a single day. Residents often paid him to deliver their mail. His walking feats were famous, so for 25 cents, he would walk 25 miles to mail a letter. He won a walking race from Boston to Chicago against 50 others, and the legend has, he walked from Montauk to Brooklyn in a single day, a distance of over 100 miles. And this was the year before his death, when he was 59 years old. He was accustomed to walking off to Montauk on his own paths over cliffs to do a day's work in East Hampton and walk back home again. There's a story that he refused a lift from the lighthouse keeper's carriage with a very fast team because he was in a hurry to get into town. At the age of nearly 60, he was found dead on one of his paths. He succumbed to tuberculosis. He was a widower and a father, and he was in the funeral notice, which is not true. He was called the last of the Montaukets. His funeral was held in Freetown, East Hampton, which, as we know, was a neighborhood consisting of former slaves, indentured servants, and the Montauk Nation indigenous who were unjustly removed from their homelands east in Indian fields. His body was taken in solemn procession all the way to Montauk for burial in the ancestral land. He was placed in a grave on a hillside overlooking the eastern shore of Lake Montauk in a pine coffin paid for by the town of East Hampton and marked with a government military white marble stone reserved for veterans. And so that's what I have about Stephen Talkhouse, except for that photograph. So that was in 1867, around the age of 48. He was photographed in a studio, the iconic picture holding what looks like to be a walking staff. This image, along with his job as a mailman who traveled long distances by walking, cemented his legacy. It's not certain who took the photograph, but one of the suspected photographers is Isaac Van Scoy. And it is only a handful of photographs of Stephen Talkhouse, or Stephen Farrow.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Kevin McCann, who lived in Montauk, has done research on that photograph of Stephen Farrow. The other thing that I just want to say, I'm going to talk next week about some of you got too much going on today. So next week, I'm going to talk about the Montaukets and some of the misconceptions that we have. Then the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you go, is Richard Barons has left. He will be greatly missed. Richard Barons was the executive director of the East Hampton Historical Society and then later its chief curator. And he has been instrumental in not only East Hampton history, but in many of the historical buildings, not only in the village, but in the town. And he will be greatly missed. And thank you all for your research. And what Councilwoman Rogers said, that Stephen Farrow was the last of the Montaukets, according to some writing. That's the reason why those markers went up the island, because they are still here. So we'll talk more, okay? Thank you all so much. This was a great lesson. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hugh. Be well, stay safe. That brings us up to public hearing portion of the meeting. Carol, if you'd please read the first public hearing notice.
First, I'll read the COVID disclosure for all the hearings. Please note that due to the public health and safety concerns related to COVID-19, the town board is not expected to meet in person at the time of the hearings. Pursuant to New York law, Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, Part E, which authorizes, notwithstanding the provisions of Article 7 of the Public Officers Law to the contrary, political subdivisions to permit any public body to hold meetings remotely without in-person access by conference call or similar service, provided that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceedings, and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. This public hearing in the town board can be held via video conferencing with a transcript provided at a later date pursuant to such authority. The public can watch and participate in the public hearing live on local TV channel 22 or live online from the public meetings link on the LTV website. Members of the public may provide comments on the matter being heard by calling the number available on the live stream. Comments may also be submitted and will continue to be accepted in writing by the town clerk by email to cbrennan@ehamptonny.gov or by mail to the town clerk, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton. Comments must be received within 1 week of the posting of the public hearing transcript. A transcript of the public hearing held by video conferencing will be prepared and filed with the town clerk and placed upon the town's website. Please check the meeting agenda posted on the town's website for any changes to the instructions to access the public hearings or for updated information. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to join public hearings number 3 and 4.
Second.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, 3 and 4, correct, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Take notice that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on January 20th at 11 a.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard on a proposed local law providing for the adoption of a revised community preservation project plan pursuant to Section 64E of the New York Town Law, which provides for the prevention of open space, historic places, and recreational areas within the town of East Hampton, including the incorporated villages therein, to include approximately 0.74 acres of land located at 61 Isle of Wight Road in Springs, reputedly owned by Alexander Shivinsky and identified on the Suffolk County tax map as 323-231.
Thank you, Carol.
I have number 2 yet. Take notice that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on January 20th at 11 a.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard to consider the following: the town's acquisition for open space purposes with community preservation funds of vacant property located at 61 Isle of Wight Road in Springs, reputedly owned by Alex, I'm going to get this one right yet, Lata Shavinsky, and consisting of approximately 0.74 acres of land at a cost to the town of East Hampton not to exceed $1,285,000 plus associated costs, survey, title, prorated tax, and recording charges, said property being described on the Suffolk County tax map as 323-231.
Thank you, Carol. We'll go to the phone lines to see if anyone is on the line to speak to this particular public hearing. So Jason, if you could please
I
ask.
want to hear from Scott first, Peter, and he can just introduce the.
Do we have Scott with us?
He's in the room.
Yes.
Okay. Scott, you want to give a brief introduction and then we'll go to the phone lines?
Sure. Please note the aerial on the screen. The property that we're talking about is actually outlined in blue. I would ask that you also note all of the parcels in green that have frontage on Hog Creek, 11 and counting so far. This would be number 12, not to mention all of the other parcels that you can see on green on that sheet that are also in the Hog Creek watershed. The property is currently in a natural state, sloping from a high of 30 feet at the road edge, sloping downward to Hog Creek. The property contains tidal wetlands that are significant for coastal wetland habitat, flood control, and the protection of surface water quality. The parcel is in our water protection district. It's recommended on the critical land protection strategy and is in the harbor protection overlay district. Preserving this wooded parcel and the prevention of clearing and septic would help buffer a compromised Hog Creek. For these reasons, this parcel would meet the criteria of our Springs outreach, whose first criteria is watershed and waterfront protection, as preservation of these parcels can help ensure that these lands continue to be excellent buffers for surface and subsurface water in springs, limiting the flow of chemical and natural contaminants. It was actually an oversight that this property was not originally considered for the Springs outreach. It should have been. It was my oversight, and I'm glad that we have an opportunity to correct that oversight now. The primary purpose under consideration for this property is water quality and the preservation of open space. There is no intent to change this property in any way. I've had a number of residents in Lionhead Beach ask or sort of wish that we would ensure to make a statement like that. There's no intention to change this property. The parcel meets the criteria set forth in Town Law 64E. I would ask the board to pass a resolution to add this property to the CPF project plan and also one to acquire.
Thank you, Scott. At this point, if we could go to the phone lines, reminding speakers to please mute your TV or computer when you come on the call. And again, we'll be taking comments specifically for this public hearing.
Okay. On that note, I shall unmute the first caller and see if they are here for this hearing. Hello, caller ending 2866. You're on the air. Hello.
Hi, I'm sorry. Are we only talking about the purchase of the land for open space or everything on today's agenda? I'm confused.
We're currently only talking about this one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Town Board. And All right, thank you very much. Cool, I'll move on to the next caller.
We'll go to general public comments after the various hearings are heard. So unless you're speaking on that specific hearing topic, we ask that you stay on the line and wait till public comment.
Okay. And moving on to next comment. Actually, caller, did you have a public hearing that you were looking for? And I can write that down as a note.
Yeah, I don't actually know the name, just about the, I think there's others on the phone for the Hawthorne property.
Okay, Hawthorne, give me a second.
I'm not sure what the agenda item is exactly.
Okay, thank you very much, though. Okay, moving on to next caller. Hello, caller ending 0055. You are on the air. Hello.
Hello, yes. My name is Savas Vasiliadis. I'm calling in reference to the ARPA modification. I'm for it. I own the property on Hawthorne, 70 Hawthorne Street.
That would be Hawthorne. Excuse me for a second. That's going to be a different public hearing?
That'll be the 7th public hearing. So if you'll stay in the line, and Jason, if you can take note, and we can bring that caller back in when we get to that topic.
Understood and noted. Moving on to the next caller.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Hello, caller ending 5095. You're on the air. Are you for Letvinsky?
Yes, I am calling for Levinsky. My name is Barbara Zach. I live in Lionhead Beach. I've been a property owner here for 15 plus years. I am calling to voice my robust support for the CPF purchase of this property in order to protect water quality, wildlife, and vegetation that it supports. I would also like everyone on the phone to know that I have previously, 2 days ago, submitted a letter indicating the support of a total of 26 of my friends and neighbors, also residents of Lionhead Beach Association. So there are, reached out to a group of friends. There's 26 of us that have signed a letter supporting this purchase.
Thank you very much for calling. We appreciate your comment.
Unmuting next caller in just a second. Just making sure I have the order correct. Hello, caller ending 4389. You're on the air. Hello.
Hi, yeah, I'm calling in about the Hawthorne property.
Okay, thank you. Please stay on the line and we'll get back to you. Jason, if you could make note of that.
Understood and noted. Hello, caller ending 1319. You're on the air. Hello. Hello, caller ending 1319. I just heard something on your end. Are you here for Levinsky? Okay, I'm not hearing any response. So if I move on, I'm moving on to next.
I'm here.
Oh.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Hello. Are you here for Levinsky?
No. Yes, I am. Yes.
Oh. Okay, fantastic. Please state your name for the board and proceed.
Yes, of course. My name is Stephen Lutzen. Hello to board members, and I, in the spirit of belt and suspenders, I also put in a text request so you can ignore that. And I'm really calling because, in spirit, I support the acquisition, but I was just a little concerned with some of the ramifications, and I also filed that with an email with town clerk. And basically, I was just curious about, I guess, one, is this essentially an easement in terms of the allowing access for the public, and more importantly, whether this spills, excuse the pun, into the inlet, so that is it conceivable that people could, bring their kayaks or their stand-up paddleboard or whatever it is, or their rowing shells, and literally park their car and go through that property and then have access to the inlet. It's just something I was concerned about because I'm obviously very much interested in open space and also maintaining the purity of the water. But that was one of my concerns. And the other thing is that I think the answer is that you don't assume, when I say you, the CPF and or the town, they don't pay for the annual assessments for the Lionhead Beach Association or for extra charges like the repair of the bulkhead. So I'm interested in some comments about that. And then I guess if there's anything that you could add in terms of whether this enhances the overall property value because, you know, what the impact of CPF acquisitions are, let's say, for a community, which I would think that would be positive. So these are just some of my thoughts, and I just wonder if any of you could comment on them.
Yes, Steve, thanks for calling in. I would say that your last comment is that regarding property values, that we've seen that preserving land and protecting our natural environment, and especially waterfront access, does increase the value of the property. This is an additional location that members within Lion's Head would be able to access the water, where if it was private property, they might not have that ability. Scott or John, you want to chime in on the other two questions?
Yeah, traditionally when we acquire properties within an association, similar to Lionhead Beach, we acquired the Spencer property just up the street here. We basically do an exchange. So in exchange for a release of the obligation for the town to pay dues, the town subsequently releases their rights to any of the amenities of the association. For example, you know, all town residents won't then have the right to use the dock or use the beaches that are under the purview of Lionhead Beach Association. So it's a bit of an exchange. With regard to any future use on this property, I mean, Runnymede sort of dead ends at this lot. Again, it's, you know, it goes from 30 feet above sea level right down to 0 at the water's edge. You know, there's really no intention, or it's not likely a good idea to even cut a trail onto this property. It's not an appropriate piece for a kayak launch. We've acquired a number of waterfront properties on the opposite side of Hog Creek where the slope is not so significant and likely a much better option if that's what you wanted to do. Certainly, you know, it is open to the public. So while technically you could do that, we have no intention, again, of cutting a trail for that purpose. It's gonna, we acquired the Spencer lot several years ago. It's exactly as, you know, it's today as we, you know, it's just as good as it was before we acquired it. The plan is the same here. We're not going to touch it. This is a watershed protection, open space protection opportunity for the board.
Hope that answers your question, Steve. We appreciate you taking the time to call us today.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity, and it does sound like a pretty decent exchange. So unless someone's going to start cutting their own path with a machete, I'm guessing that won't happen. So I appreciate the chance to be heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You well.
All right, and unmuting next caller. All right. Caller ending 1078. You're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Are you calling for? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Are you calling in reference to the Levinsky CPF?
I am calling. My name is Tina Felix, and I am also a resident of Lionhead Beach Association. I would like to disclose that I am a member of the board, but I am not calling on behalf of the board. I'm just calling on behalf of myself. And much like Steve, my questions really go to, you know, the balance between having open space and also the retaining our kind of community environment, which, as you know, we are a homeowners association with only one access in and out of the property. And I think that privacy that we get to enjoy as a consequence of that is what gives the community such beautiful character. So much like Steve, you know, my concern is, of course, the opening of the property to the public. And I would like to know if there are any assurances that the town can provide regarding limited use of the property and retaining the property in its unspoiled and natural state. You know, I know that you have purchased property before, and my understanding is at times you really can't provide any concrete assurances in the written documents, though I know it is the intent of the town to not change the current state of the property, but there's always the what ifs that linger in terms of, if it were open up to the public and people did go down with their surfboards and kayaks and whatever, how would that affect the community at large? So that was one of my questions. And, I think it was asked and answered by Scott that it wasn't the intent. And then the question is, what can we get in writing to reflect that is not the intent of the town, or is there anything the town assurances the town can provide us with? The second, of course, is just much like Steve mentioned, the assessment fees. I get that trade-off, and we're going to try to figure out something to address that, but I don't know that the town can necessarily change their policy of not paying assessment fees.
Yeah, Tia, we appreciate you calling us and voicing your concerns. This issue has come up from time to time in similar situations, and what we've found, the experience of the town, is that these properties are rarely used, particularly a property like this where there is no trail intended to be cut through. The topography would be challenging for launching kayaks or paddle boards, but upon public acquisition, it is available to the public. But again, certain types of uses just wouldn't be practical, and therefore we don't expect them to occur.
Right. And is there anything that can be provided in writing reflecting that the town does not intend to change the character of the land or maintain it as open space in its natural form, or is that, what is the town, how does that work?
Yeah, under the provisions of the acquisition, the stated purpose is for this particular property to remain as open space, and passive use is what is intended here. Scott, you wanted to make some other further comment?
I just wanted to go back again to the dues question because you brought that up at the end. So if we don't work out an agreement between the town and the association with regard to dues, and the request from the association is that the town pay the dues, then the town is also obliged to use the amenities. So I think it's a pretty fair exchange, one for the other. If we pay the dues, every resident in the town would then have the option to use all of the association's amenities. And my guess is you're trying to prevent that. So
yeah, that's accurate. So I think that's really all I needed to say on it. I just wanted to make sure that in whatever, I don't know, I haven't decided if I'm opposed or in favor. I'm really more in a fact-finding mode. And I just wanted to see what assurances the town would be able to provide us with in the sales documents reflecting that it is the intent of the town to continue to maintain the property as open space in its natural form and not to use it for any other purposes. That's my comment.
Understood. Thank you for taking the time to contact us, Tina, let your opinion know.
With that noted,
thank you.
With that noted, I will unmute next caller. Hello, caller ending 3844. Are you here to talk about the Levinsky CPF?
Yes, I am. This is Chris Ganich. I live in the Lionhead community at 105 Isle of Wight, and I just wanted to add to the comments made in support of this property, not just to maintain what's already there, but to prevent what would be there if the purchase went to to build on the property. The large structure that would be there, cutting down of trees, disturbing of the filtering mechanism of the soil, removing habitat, pesticides, fertilizer, mowers, blowers, etc., just cannot compare in relationship to keeping this property undisturbed for many reasons. So thank you very much, and I hope this purchase goes forward.
Thank you for calling us today, Chris. Good to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and moving on to next caller. Hello, 8764. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. In view of the graphic that Scott Wilson put on is very
Can you just, for the public record, just state your name for the public record, please, David?
Sorry. David Buda from 6 Montgomery Avenue in the Springs. The graphic that Mr. Wilson posted and that people are looking at is very instructive, showing how important land preservation is along Hog Creek in the town's opinion, and I agree and join in that opinion. However, I have to disagree with the tenor of some of the comments from the people who've spoken who reside in Lion's Head. This is a acquisition for open space, although it might have water quality improvement collateral benefits. It is an open space acquisition. It's not coming from the water quality improvement 20% set aside, to my understanding. With all of the, I think Scott said, you're up to 11 different properties that have frontage on Hog Creek. I'm not aware that the town has adopted a management plan for any of them. I could be mistaken. But I do think the town has an obligation to the entirety of the town to provide the most reasonable and valuable access for those people who use non-motorized watercraft such as kayaks, stand-up paddle boards. I don't think a surfboard would work, but stand-up paddle boards, kayaks, canoes. I think that amenity is something that the town should get for the enormous amount of money that's being spent to acquire these properties. So I agree that this particular property, I saw the topography on the sales listing, and it's steep, so it's probably not the best place for water access path, unlike a property, a CPF property such as the one that was purchased on Squaw Road, which has a narrow path that's been cleared and maintained to allow people to obtain access to 3 Mile Harbor. I think the town has an obligation to pick and choose at least one or two on each side, maybe one on each side, that is a appropriate place for the public to access Hog Creek with non-motorized watercraft if they're so inclined. I hope that you do so. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Okay, hey, David, are you going to be talking on any of the other public hearings?
Yes, and thank you, Jason, for reminding me to alert you. Yes, I'd like to speak on both the Lilac, that's numbers 5 and 6, and also on number 7, and then public comment. It's going to be a triple header or quadruple header today.
Completely understood, David. I'll keep you on the line, and thank you very much for letting me know. With that said, I'm moving on to next caller. And next caller. Hello, 2968. You're on the air. Are you talking about the Levinsky CPF?
Yes, I am.
May you please state your name for the board, please? Thank you.
Yes. Hi. My name is Barbara DiLorenzo. I am also a resident of Lionhead, very close to 61 Isle of Wight, and I'm very much in favor of the town acquiring this property. I think a lot has been said. Water quality, certainly, open space, just hoping to retain a little bit of the rural character of the neighborhood. I think it will benefit wildlife, and I think it will also benefit, humans. So wholeheartedly in favor, and thank you for this opportunity.
Barbara, thank you for taking the time to let us know your opinion. We appreciate you calling in.
Very good.
Okay, and with that said, I'm just going to just double check the numbers that we have over here, making sure that everyone else is calling for Hawthorne or for something else. Just take me one moment. Oh, and I believe that we are ready to move on to to the next item, if you wish.
Okay, that concludes the public comment on this particular hearing. I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Carol, if you'd read the next hearing notice.
I'd like to make a motion, if you don't mind, Mr. Supervisor, to merge public hearings number 5 and 6.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Carol, if you would go ahead and read the notices.
Take notice that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on January 20th at 11 a.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard on a proposed local law providing for the adoption of a revised community preservation project plan pursuant to Section 64E of the New York Town Law, which provides for the preservation of open space, historic places, and recreational areas within the town of East Hampton, including the incorporated villages therein, to include approximately 12.37 acres of land located at 186, 190, 192, 194, 196, 198, and a 5.18 acre reserve, Cedar Street, East Hampton, reputedly owned by Lilac 45 LLC, Jezebel 21 LLC, and Mayday 68 LLC, and identified on the Suffolk County tax map as 300, 159, 2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 2, 4.1, and 5. Take notice that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing in the Town Board meeting room, East Hampton, New York, pursuant to Section 247 of the General Municipal Law and Section 64E8 of the Town Law, the State of New York, on January 20th at 11 a.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider the following: the town's acquisition for agricultural and open space purposes with community preservation funds of primarily vacant properties located at 186, 190, 192, 194, 196, 198, and a 5.18 acre reserve, Cedar Street, East Hampton, reputedly owned by Lilac 45 LLC, Jezebel 21 LLC, and Mayday 68 LLC, and consisting of approximately 12.37 acres of land at a cost to the town of East Hampton not to exceed $10 million, plus associated costs, survey, title, prorated tax, and recording charges. Said property being described on the Suffolk County tax map as 300, 159, 2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 2, 4.1, and 5.
Thank you, Carol. Jason, if you go back to the phone lines, I know we have at least one caller for this public hearing.
Yes, at least one. I am unmuting the first.
You want me to give a few introduction for this?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Scott. Yeah, please give the brief overview. Appreciate
That's okay. You can see on the aerial there, the parcels that we're talking about are actually outlined in blue. I just want to apologize if there was any ambiguity in the language on the resolution. We're talking about the acquisition of 7 lots in total, 6 of them building lots, plus the 5-acre reserve area. It is a total of 12.37, not 12.37 plus 5. These lots, 3 of these lots that actually front on Cedar Street, 186, 190, 192, were actually formerly developed lots. But between 2013 and 16, these structures were removed. So for the last several years, the public has had an opportunity to note the property's nostalgic viewshed, harkening back to our agricultural vistas of our past. And I want to show you another aerial. Hopefully it comes up. There you go. And note the difference between 2021 and an aerial, this aerial that you can see now from 1962. And the resemblance between then and now is a remarkable change. You notice all those red lines that are actually on that map. If you could see it closely, those are all the subdivisions that have occurred over time. And what a wonderful opportunity to actually return a modest amount of that subdivided property back to its agricultural roots, to actually reclaim some of the productive lands. The highest priority, in fact, the main driver of the CPF law's creation is the preservation of farmland. So you might imagine that the CPF Advisory Board, the Planning Department assessment, as well as the town board feel pretty strongly about returning this property back to agricultural lands. The parcel contains Primax soils, Plymouth loamy sands, and are within the Ag Overlay District. There's actually a barn and a shed and a one-bedroom house that are on the property. We're proposing to retain those for future agricultural use. If we successfully move forward with this acquisition, our intent is to seek a farmer who will return the land to food crop production. This group of properties meet the criteria in Town Law 64E. I would ask the board to pass a resolution adding these properties to the CPF project plan and further one to acquire.
Thank you, Scott. Jason, if you'll now go to the phone lines.
Understood. Unmuting now. 1 second. Hello, caller ending 2866. You are on the air. Hello.
Hi. No, I'm calling actually about the next agenda item.
Understood. Thank you. Let me just make absolutely sure of that. My apologies. On to the next caller. Hello, caller ending 0055. You're on the air. Is it the next item?
Yes, hi. Hello?
You're calling for the next public hearing, I believe?
Yes, sir. I'm from the Hawthorne.
Hawthorne. So that'll be the next one, Jason. I think David Buddha is the only previous caller who wanted to speak.
Understood, yes. Hello, David. You are on the air.
Thank you, David Buddha from 6 Montgomery Avenue in the Springs. A couple of points about this proposal. I had requested a copy of the Planning Department's evaluation of this property, which, if it had been made available, as I believe it should have been, I would have been better informed as far as the realistic prospects of restoring this property to full agricultural use. I'm heartened to hear that Mr. Wilson said that you're looking for a farmer, perhaps one that would reside in the residence that you are retaining, to produce food crops. That would be an excellent use of the property, no objection there. I do note that the town has already acquired at least one ag reserve almost across the street, further up the road behind Roberts Lane. And as far as I know, that property is only being used under a town farmer's lease for, what would you call it, raising plants for landscape plantings, which I don't really think, although it is agriculture, I don't think it's really worth the price tag that this particular property is engendering. Now, as far as the price, obviously until one sees the appraisal, one can't fully appreciate the price, but we should all note that this is quite pricey. A $10 million parcel that has at present 6 building lots, although if it were to be developed, probably some of those thin, narrow lots would be reconfigured. There is a 5.2 acre reserve already, so when you purchase an existing ag reserve, you're not really purchasing much other than the opportunity to ensure that it'll be used as intended when the ag reserve was established. When this property was subdivided in 1997, the town had requirements that a substantial portion of the property, at that time it was a subdivision of just creating 3 lots and the ag reserve, and so a tremendous amount of the property was designated as an ag reserve. And also it's adjacent to another ag reserve of similar size that's under private ownership, the same owners, although under different LLCs, and that is currently being offered for sale. I don't know if you have any plans in the future to be able to utilize or encourage the use of that other ag reserve that is adjacent to this on the adjacent property. All these things might have been discussed in the Planning Department's evaluation, which I was denied access to, which I am not happy about. I think that you should, as a board, establish a procedure where, for the benefit of everyone who's interested in a public hearing, that things such as the Planning Department's evaluation and the CPF Advisory Board's recommendation should be made available to the public online in the same way that you do for work session matters. So that having been said, I didn't hear any specific mention as to why you are retaining and not requiring the demolition of the residence. If it would be for a farmer to reside on the property, I could perhaps understand that, but that certainly otherwise would be contrary to prior standard practice. There are 7 acres that are developable. You seem to be paying willing to pay $10 million, which is at or near the asking price. It's an extremely steep price for ag land, and I truly hope that if the town acquires it, that promise of restoration of agricultural use for raising crops actually comes to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your comments.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right, David, you'll stay on the line, and I'll unmute next caller. Hello, caller ending 7681. Are you calling in reference to Lilac?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much.
Richard Whalen. This is Richard Whalen. I presume I can speak in regard to both the amendment of the project plan and also the acquisitions themselves. Is that correct?
Yes, you can, Richard. We've joined the 2 hearing records.
Okay, that makes good sense. Look, I very strongly support this. I think it's a wonderful acquisition. I think Scott Wilson put it very, very well, and I actually really like the fact he's got the 1962 aerials up there. It really makes you remember what East Hampton looked like as as really something of a farming community not that long ago. So I'm very supportive of this. I do take, I think David Buda made some good points. I think the value here in the town of paying the price that you're paying is that the agriculture, even though you have 5 acres of agricultural land at the back of the property right now, realistically that's probably not going to be used and probably isn't even large enough to be practical to be used unless you can do something along the lines of what you're proposing to do here. So if you assemble this into 12.5 acre parcel or 12.3 acre parcel, and couldn't put it out there together as somebody to, rent and farm, and particularly if you can make a house available for the farmer or, a farm worker or whoever, then I think it becomes a practical proposition. So I really like the idea that, we're trying to restore some of our agricultural land base to farming, kind of bring back some of that history as well as the productive use of land. I will note that it's kind of in an interesting location because you're adjacent to, on the one side, the Most Holy Trinity Cemetery, and the property backs up to, the Longhouse Reserve. So, you don't have really residential land adjacent to most of the property here. So, I think it's a great acquisition. I mean, the price is a little bit steep, but that's the beauty of the CPF fund. That as land values go up, so do the town's revenues. So the land values can't run away from you because if they go up, so does your income from the CPF tax. So that's the beauty of the whole CPF fund. So put me down. I'm very much in favor of this acquisition. Thank you.
Thanks for calling, Richard. Appreciate your comments.
All right. Unmuting next caller. Hello, caller ending 7427. Are you calling in regards to the Lilac CPF?
I am.
Okay, can you please state your name for the board, please? Thank you.
This is Katie Casey. I'm the chair of the East Hampton Sag Harbor Citizens Advisory Committee.
Hello, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. Thanks for calling in.
So our committee discussed this CPF acquisition. We unanimously support it. This is a very visible property. It's very representative of the community character that the CPF is intended to preserve. As appraisals go, larger parcels generally are worth less per acre than smaller parcels. It's a little counterintuitive. but we're losing opportunities to buy large tracts of land. So I just wanted to call in. We did send a letter, but I wanted to call in and just state that the committee emphatically supports this acquisition.
Thank you, Katie. We appreciate hearing from you and the CAC on this matter.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
I'll unmute next caller. Hello, caller ending 9266. You're on the air. Are you calling in regards to the Lilac CPF?
I am, Cedar Street. This is Carla Ash, and I'm calling, and I'm very much in favor of this purchase. I pass by that parcel on a very regular basis, and I always look at it and enjoy looking at it, including the structures, which are way in the back. So they actually lead the eye across the expanse of vacant property. And down the street, not too far, an opportunity was lost because a fellow HAH member who died, the house was torn down, which was just a plain ranch house. And the land was let go back to nature for several years. And now a huge house is being built on it, right on the street level. So I would very much not want this to happen to the land that you're going to purchase. However, there's one thing I'm concerned about, and that is the general term of agriculture. I would like that tightened up because we've had some unfortunate results of expanding what agriculture is. I think this should be specified for food crops, for produce, and not leave it open to interpretation as to what agriculture is. That also gets us into court cases sometimes. And I feel about the structures too, that they should be retained and that they should also be specifically for farm worker, farm manager, somebody who is actually working that land. And I have not gone back to see what the other structures are, but if they do farm, obviously equipment and supplies are needed, so an auxiliary structure would be needed for that. So I'm in favor of that, but I'm in favor that it's really, really restricted to producing food, and that a worker can live on that, because we know how there's such fighting back of any housing for farm workers, and this would be a wonderful example of being successful in giving housing to the people who work the land. So I think both of those can be useful as an example, and I hope that you will tighten it. I'm very worried about the general term of agriculture, because it's open to wide interpretation. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. We understand your concern about the ag and limiting it to food production. Our intent is not to have it become a tree farm or shrubbery farm, but to in fact have it producing
or
food.
a polo housing horses for polo or something. But I also
I
also have a.
Go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Peter. I just wonder what happens if there are no takers of farmers. Is that covered? Would it just stay as is if you do not find a willing farmer to use that land?
Yeah, first of all, I don't think we'll have a problem finding a farmer, but even if we did, we would maintain it as open field and would require, I'm sure, a management plan that would include at least an annual mowing so that it could be converted to agricultural use easily once a farmer is located. We appreciate
thank
you.
you.
Time to call us. Thank you. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. And I am now muting that caller. We have no other callers on the line for this currently. There was one caller ending in 8046 that called in, then dropped out, called in, then dropped out. I currently do not see them on here anymore, but they may be looking for the next item.
I will make a motion to close these public hearings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Carol, if you'd please go on to the next public hearing notice. Thank you, Scott Wilson.
Take notice that the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on January 20th at 11 a.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard to consider the following modification of Urban Renewal Map SP1-2. Elimination of the requirement of old file map lots 41 and 42 from inclusion in Urban Renewal Parcel 164 in Block 31 of map SP1-2. Old file map lots 41 and 42 are owned by the town and acquired with open space funds and as such are not available for acquisition and cannot be added to the parcel as required by the existing map.
Thank you, Carol. Jason, if you would please go to the callers.
Understood. I am unmuting first caller right now. Hello, caller ending 2866. You're on the air.
Hello. Hi. This is Jackie Esposito. I'm calling from Springs. And I'm just calling because I wanted to applaud Councilwoman Kathy Burke-Gonzalez for really just taking decisive action, hearing the community, and just really, as I said, taking decisive action to protect open space. Bravo, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for calling, Jackie. We appreciate your comments, and I'm sure Kathy especially.
Unmuting next caller. Hello, caller ending 0055. You are on the air.
Yes, thank you for taking my phone call. My name is Savas Vasiliadis, and I'm calling in reference to the ARPA map modification. I'm very much for that. I own the property on 17 Hawthorne Street for 22 years now. I have been paying my taxes, and I don't think it's fair to just leave it there. What am I going to do with that? So I will appreciate the modification so I will be able to use it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling in. We appreciate hearing from you, especially as the owner of the property.
And unmuting next caller. 8764, you were on the air.
If I could just request a chance to defer to the end, I'm trying to whittle down my notes here to shorten it.
No problem whatsoever. I'll come back to you. Hello, caller ending 4389. You are on the air.
Hi, this is Michaela Gomez. I live at 28 Lincoln Avenue, Lincoln at the corner of Hawthorne. So, this is a very tiny plot of land, and this is already a very dense area. So, I mean, it seems like it was purchased for open space and would be great if we could keep it that way. It doesn't seem that possible to get 3,000 square foot house and a swimming pool on that lot. So please consider that it's already a very dense neighborhood. And thank you for protecting open space.
Thank you for calling in, Michaela. We appreciate the comments.
All right. And I shall unmute next caller. Hello, caller ending 7137. You are on the air. Hello.
Hi, John Tarbett.
Hey, you're on the air, loud and clear.
Hello, John.
Okay. Hi, board. So I do represent Mike Forrest, who I believe is on the line. And I just wanted to keep my comments brief. So as the board is probably aware by now, this has gone through the planning board, and they have recommended to the town board that the urban renewal map be modified to allow this parcel to be built on without acquiring the property next door, which is owned by the town of East Hampton. And that process of modifying the urban renewal map is a very straightforward process that's outlined in the code. To not puts us down into a hole. I would ask the town board to ask the town attorney's office for an opinion on this, because I'm not really sure where you would go if you were not to modify the urban renewal map, because there's a process where these two properties are supposed to be combined to get a building lot, and when the town owns one of those lots, when we back up, if the other property were owned by a private party, there's a whole process outlined in the town code on how to resolve any differences in price or who gets to build on the lot. And that is regulated and overseen by the town of East Hampton. So when the town in 2004 purchased the other piece needed to make this a buildable lot on the urban renewal map, if it doesn't then modify the map to allow this piece to be built, in essence, it's an eminent domain proceeding, because you're unwilling to sell the piece you bought and unwilling to let the owner of this lot build on it. So I would just ask, and I could provide the board on with my opinion on the legality of that, but I would just ask that if you have any doubts about accepting the planning board's recommendation to modify the map, that before you vote on it, you just ask the town attorney's office for an opinion on where this would go next. And that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you for calling, John. We appreciate it. Jason, if we could go to the next caller, please.
Absolutely. Unmuting now. Hello, caller ending 9101. You are on the air.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my family, Aiden, Sarah, Amy, and myself, Michael Forst, in regards to the urban renewal map modification of 17 Hawthorne Street. As the board has publicly stated, we are in an affordable housing crisis, one that we have been in for a long time, and it only gets worse. All hands on deck is the phrase being used. Amy and I are year-round residents. We live in East Hampton Springs. We own a local business that employs local people, and we volunteer for this community in a lot of different ways. Both our children are in college, and we want to be able to help our children to afford to live here after school. That is what this modification does today. We find it disturbing that the town has been buying up parts of the urban renewal lots in order to make them unbuildable. We find it disturbing that the town is using CPF money or other methods of buying affordable properties in the name of preservation. We believe in preservation of open space. We presumed that meant buying farmland, wetlands, and other sensitive properties. Never did we think that it meant that the town would buy up affordable lots in our town. This policy has only helped fuel this affordable housing crisis. It is simple supply and demand. We truly do not believe that the local residents of East Hampton would agree with these purchases either. We are asking the board today to right this wrongdoing. 17 Hawthorne Street, as it is proposed to be modified, has East Hampton Town planning approval, Suffolk County Health Department approval with no variance. It also meets all of East Hampton Town building codes and setbacks with no variances. It is our intention to build a small 4-bedroom home that is 1 story and roughly 1,600 square feet of GFA as defined by the town of building code. We are willing to put covenants and restrictions on the property so that it remains small and affordable. We are a family of volunteers. Amy was the PTA president and volunteers a lot of her time for HLA and the Town and Village's junior lifeguard program. I'm an active firefighter and an ex-captain of East Hampton Fire Department. I'm an ex-chief of East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue. I am the volunteer that the town has expressed the need to keep here. Even as an older veteran first responder, the town needs people like me to be able to stay here with my family in order to help train the next generation of first responders. My son Aiden is also a first responder, currently a lieutenant at Ditch Plains and a junior lifeguard instructor. As an HLA director, I am so proud of this junior lifeguard program and the accomplishments it has allowed our children to obtain. By allowing this property to be buildable, the town will have accomplished preservation of part of the property, as well as doing what is just by not taking the right to be able to build on this property due to unfair play. Unfair play to us is buying the lesser share, which then deems the majority holder's property unbuildable without even knowing it. To be for affordable housing, in our opinion, would be for this board to vote yes today to allow the modification of the UR map to take place, making this lot buildable with covenants and restrictions to help keep this property affordable. Let this be a template for the lots that have been bought like this as well. This is an all hands-on-deck approach. We urge you to vote yes today as you stand behind your public pledge to solve this town's affordable housing crisis. Thank you for your consideration today, Amy, Sarah, Aiden, and Michael Forst. Thank you.
Thank you for calling, Michael. We appreciate your comments.
Okay. Unmuting next caller. Hello, caller ending 8046. You're on the air. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes.
Hello? Oh, okay. This is Lisa Steiner. I'm across the street from this lot. I'm very impressed with Mr. Forst's comments. I wish my parents would build me a 3,000 square foot house with a swimming pool. Anyway, this lot, number 41, these 41 and 42, they were bought to preserve open space, solely for the reduction of density. Now, if you walk over to this lot, this specific lot, it is bordering 13 Hawthorne, 15 Hawthorne, 21 Hawthorne, 20 Lincoln, 22 Lincoln, not to mention 14 Eau Claire. It is like, it has no street frontage. This particular lot is so tiny and so dense, it should not be built on. I'm sorry, but this was bought, the portion of this lot was bought with open space funds for the sole purpose of stopping this area from being too dense. It's a substandard building lot, and it should be bought by the town. It doesn't have any street frontage. It's tiny, and this fund that bought this lot was created in order to preserve open space. The money came from an open space account. And, you know, the guy who bought this lot from Stax Dollars for $27,000 in 2000, he should have done his due diligence. And now the town should step in and buy it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for my time.
Thank you for calling, Lisa. Just to correct the record, the purchaser of that adjacent lot purchased it before the town sterilized the adjacent parcel. We appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I shall unmute next caller.
Good afternoon, Richard Whalen here again.
All right.
I'm calling. I sort of have a professional interest in this situation because I have a couple of other clients who basically are in a similar situation. About 15 or so years ago, a prior town board, long before any of your current members were on the town board, did take deeds to parts of urban renewal parcels scattered throughout the town. They didn't buy the entire urban renewal parcel. They bought part of these parcels and basically left the owner of the remainder property to find out someday that, hey, they were not able to actually assemble the urban renewal parcel that's shown on the old file map study. So, I mean, that's the position that the current owner is in. he can't buy from you parcels 41 and 42 because you purchased them with open space money, and you're not legally able to sell them. So there's only two legal options here. I mean, I think probably you realize this at this point. Your two legal options are you either change the map so that the major part of the lot is buildable and does not have to acquire land which the owner can't acquire that you already own, or you purchase the entire property. You purchase the remainder of the property. It sounds from what I'm hearing that, based on Mr. Forst's comments, there's a local family that's looking to purchase this property. It is, I'm sure, by East Hampton standards, a relatively affordable private lot. Looking at the map, the prior speaker made a comment about how many adjacent residential parcels there are. It doesn't strike me that this is something that the town should be buying for open space overall. So again, I don't have a dog in the fight directly, but I do want you to understand, when this situation arises, when the town has bought part of an urban renewal parcel and did it with open space money, you only have two ways out. You either have to buy the remainder of the property, or you have to allow the unpurchased parcel to be its own urban renewal lot. So those are my comments. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for calling, Rick. Appreciate hearing from you on this matter.
Okay. Unmuting next caller. 8764, are you ready?
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm ready. Good afternoon again. It's David Buddha. I have extremely grave concerns about the proposed modification to the old filed map study plan that is now before the town board. It would establish an horrendous precedent that would arguably affect several other similar situations. One of those is another 10,000 square foot unbuildable parcel at the corner of Norfolk Street and Lincoln Avenue, where the town owns the adjacent 4,000 square foot lot that it acquired from the county, and that it is required to be merged in order to complete a building lot. I agree with my friend Rick Whalen that there are two ways out of this situation, and the only one that is reasonable and desirable for the neighborhood is for the town to utilize either negotiation or condemnation as envisioned by the dispute resolution provisions of the Town Code, Chapter 232. Let a fair price be paid by the town using open space money, which now can be done based on precedent using CPF funds, which, as we discussed in the previous application, are substantial these days. Frankly, I am astonished that the Planning Board issued a favorable recommendation. Perhaps that is in large part because the process before the Planning Board gave no notice whatsoever to affected neighbors, and the only party given an opportunity to directly communicate with that board was the applicant. Now, on the other hand, I understand that as a result of a local neighborhood effort to inform the most affected property owners, you have received letters of strong opposition from Chang Truong, owner of 13 Hawthorne Street, Milton and Jennifer Gomez, residents of 15 Hawthorne Street, Mario Hurtado and Sandra Espina Ascala, residents of 21 Hawthorne Street, and Michael Dalia and Kimberly English, residents of immediately adjacent 20 Lincoln Avenue. And today you already heard from Michaela Gomez at 28 Lincoln Avenue, and Lisa Steiner, who lives across the street on Hawthorne, or actually on Broadway. In this day of holding virtual public hearings, it's important for the town board and town clerk to develop a procedure where receipt of written submission for the record are listed and acknowledged. The pending application seeks the town board's action to modify the URP, or Urban Renewal Parcel 164, but to do so would stand on its head nearly all of the logic, history, and law that created the existing dimensions of URP number 164. The applicant seeks to have the town board divide an existing 14,000 square foot urban renewal parcel into two separate urban renewal parcels and to allow full development on a 10,000 square foot lot. Let me remind you that any lot under 11,000 square foot is exempt from any clearing restrictions, so that a 10,000 square foot lot has 100% buildability, and a 14,000 square foot lot at least has some clearing, non-clearable requirement. This is a B-zone B residence zone, which has a minimum lot area requirement of 20,000 square feet. The applicant is asking, and now you've heard both from the owner and from the contract purchaser today, they're asking for this new development in a very densely populated neighborhood without benefit of any minor subdivision, which I don't understand, because even in 1976 and 1977, it was understood that the subdivision of lots was approval by the planning board was required. It's being asked to be done without being required to obtain a lot area variance. And again, in 1976-77, when the old filed map study plan was undertaken, there was a referral to the zoning board if any lots were going to be created less than the zoning requirement. And it's also contrary to the minimum lot area requirements of the Suffolk County Department of Health Services in a groundwater protection zone 4. All of you, I think, except perhaps Kathy, have experience in the past with serving on either the planning board or the ZBA, and you should know that the particular desires of one particular owner or prospective purchaser should not determine land uses. It doesn't matter how nice a person is, how many things he's done for the town, how many family members he has that might inhabit the property, what he says might happen in the future. Planning and zoning has to be blind to who that person is. You have to look at the land, and if you look at this land, if you walk this land and look around the neighborhood, you'll get a clear sense of it being overly dense and needing relief.
David, you're pushing five minutes now. David, I'm going to ask you to try to curtail your comments. You're pushing 5 minutes now.
Well, okay. I will have to probably just wrap up a little bit and submit the rest in writing.
I believe we've already received a submission from you as well.
Well, if you would like to incorporate that into the record, I'd appreciate it. Perhaps you can do so. That was submitted earlier for purposes of your work session meeting, which occurred on the 11th. And if you were to incorporate that into the record of this proceeding, I'd appreciate it. I know that several of the members of the board have already read that letter that I had sent to the town planning board, so I appreciate that. Let me just point out that the town has the opportunity and should exercise that opportunity to negotiate, or if negotiations are unsuccessful, use the power that you have, and has been used on many, many occasions in the past, to force the two properties to be merged through a condemnation of the parcel that, in this case, would be the 10,000 square foot parcel.
Thank you, David.
That's the desirable outcome, and I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
All right.
We have any other callers on the line? Jason?
Yes, we do. I'm muting next caller. Hello, caller 2677. You are on the air. Hello.
Hi, Supervisor Van Scock and town members of the board, members of the town board, I meant. I'm just calling after watching this for a little bit and being somewhat familiar with...
Can you please state your name for the record? You do have a bad connection.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Tina?
I'm sorry. Tina P.S.
We're getting a lot of static.
Yes. You know why? Because I'm in Springs. Seriously. So I apologize. If you can hear me, I'm just going to state briefly that I am in favor of this, and having had experience with urban renewal lots and being very familiar with the history of this purchase by using municipal funds and not CPF funds when it happened, and the intent behind it was to reduce density in Springs, but even when that was happening, I was not in favor of municipal funds being used for these purposes. And I've heard everything that was said today, and I agree with both Mr. Tarbett and Rick Whalen on where this might go, but I'm going to be very clear that this lot should not be bought with CPF money. Owners should not be forced to negotiate and give away their property, and the sensible thing to do would be to allow this to move forward with a purchaser who's already done the homework to create a home. When you buy in an area, you buy because you know what the zoning is, and while this may be surprising, what happened with the URL lots, it's not surprising to some of us who were there when the town was using our tax dollars to buy up properties that could have been bought by residents at the time. I was very vocal at the time, and I still am, that the density that we're talking about is us. So I'm in favor of this project, and I just felt like I wanted to come in and put that on the record. So thank you for your time, and I hope that you do vote in favor of this.
Thanks for your comments, Tina.
Thanks. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, unmuting next caller. Hello, caller ending 2844. You're on the air. Hello. Oh, can you mute your TV in the background?
Unmuting next caller.
Hello, caller 2844.
2844. You're on the air. Hello.
Hi.
Can you mute your TV in the background?
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
We can hear you.
Please state your name for the record.
Yeah. It's Lauren Bolger calling, and I'll be very brief. I just wanted to call to support the acquisition of this property by the town, and people have explained why more eloquently than I ever could, but I just wanted to put my voice with theirs. Thank you.
Thanks for calling. We appreciate hearing from you, Lauren.
With that said, we have no new callers on the line.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass. Carol, would you read the next public hearing notice, please?
Pursuant to Section 247 of the General Municipal Law and Chapter 16 of the Town Code, the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 20th at 11 a.m. or soon thereafter, as the same may be heard, to hear comments of all persons wishing to be heard concerning the following grant of scenic and conservation easement to the Town of East Hampton. The grantor is 679 Aquatic LLC. It's a scenic and conservation easement dated December 14th, 2021. Location is 679 Aquatic Road in East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 398-3-7.1, and the reviewing agency is the Town Board.
Thank you, Carol. Do we have any callers on the line, Jason?
We have one previous caller from the last meeting. I'm just going to unmute them to make sure that they're here still for this. Oh, they just left. Okay, we currently have no callers on the line.
I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. And that brings us up to the public portion where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. Again, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Jason, do we have any callers?
We do not have any callers on the line. I believe that Mr. Buddha was intending to speak on this, but I do not see him on the line right now. But that might just be a delay problem.
I'll wait just a moment.
And he's back up. All right.
Hey.
And here we go. Hello, you're on.
Good afternoon, David Buddha. Thank you. I'd like to just make some very brief comments on two matters that are on for today's resolutions that I have some questions and comments on. First one is Resolution 2022-171. It involves the town's approval of a transfer of development rights that from the acquisition of 14 Pleasant Lane in the village to another site, which is 106 Newtown Lane, owned by a Thomas Cooper. 106 Newtown Lane is the site of the former dry cleaners. It's a one-story property. It's in a commercial zone. I don't know how this would comport with affordable housing. I have to plead total ignorance to the village's affordable housing program, if they even have one, because it's just not something I follow. But I think the town needs to review carefully and not just simply say, well, it's in the village, the property that was acquired was in the village. The village says it's okay, and therefore rubber stamp it. I think you need to analyze and look at how these transferred development rights will actually be used in a commercial zone. There was some mention at a zoning board of appeals, or whatever they call it in the village, of possible adding a second story, an apartment that might be affordable. I'm not sure how it would be maintained as affordable, and I'm not sure how that would actually work, but I think the town should just scrutinize this carefully and explain exactly what's going to happen. The second item I want to comment on briefly is Resolution 2022-187. The home rule request to support the state legislature allowing you to possibly adopt speed limits as low as 20 miles an hour in areas other than school zones, and I think 15 miles per hour in a school zone. This, by the way, you already last year adopted this home rule request April 6, 2021. That was Resolution 2021-466. So unless you're doing this because there's one new board member and you just want to repeat yourselves, it's really redundant. You have a 2-year session of the legislature, so it's the same bill that was pending last year. I will speak as someone who urged the town to reduce speed limits from 35 to 30 on a portion of 3 Mile Harbor Road. I'm very cognizant of the need to rein in the speeders for the benefit of the walkers, the bicyclists, children, and other motorists. But I am afraid that when you are given the power to create in only 6 or 7 streets in town a speed limit that's enforceable by all the penalties that come with speeding tickets, a speed limit of 20 miles per hour, it's really unnecessary and unwise. The real solution, if there are problems in those 2 particular areas, in the Miller Lane area and in Amagansett, the resolution is speed enforcement by the police. Also, by the way, you should know that the town highway department already has the ability to put up, let's call them advisory, precatory notices of lower speed limits. For example, on Indian Hill Road, there's a sign saying narrow road 15 miles per hour. I have no problem with that. Anything that warns people to slow down is great. What I have a problem with is anywhere in town, just the people who complain the most being allowed to have people get tickets for driving 21 miles an hour in particular neighborhoods. It's just not fair, it's not necessary, and it's just not right. So I disagree with your home rule request support. I know you've been doing this now for like 5 or 6 years. Each time the legislature has rejected your efforts, and I hope they do so again. Thank you.
Thanks, David. And your comments about the transfer of development rights, it should be noted that the town only allows transfer of development rights for affordable housing.
I also just want to chime in that we do have an agreement with the village, and we will be monitoring their affordable housing program for affordable apartments above commercial buildings. That agreement was a couple, maybe a month.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you for calling, David.
So it'll be out of Tom Rule's office if you want to discuss it.
Okay.
Well, that's important that the towns do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers on the line?
Yes, we do.
Great.
Hello, caller ending 1332. You're on the air.
Good morning, members of the town board. This is Doreen Nichols from Wainscott calling in my private capacity as a resident of Wainscott. And I'm calling on the topic of the airport and how you intend to reopen the airport. I have some suggestions, just 3. I think that the hours of the airport should be limited. I think in the summertime, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Is acceptable, and even stricter in the wintertime. I do not think it's necessary that people fly in. I actually think it should be less than that, but most businesses like contractors and landscapers have a window of the business hour they are allowed to work, and that's acceptable to taxpayers and residents because of the noise. So I think if we're going to try and tamp down the noise, we put hours of operation at the airport into play. I also think we need to eliminate all helicopter flights, with, of course, the exception of valid medical emergency flights. And I think the medical emergency flights should be limited to departing, because unless you specifically state that, I can envision people saying, I broke my leg, I need to medically fly out to my house in the Hamptons to sit by my pool. So I think you need to tighten that up, because, again, once you put things in writing, people will very cleverly find a way around it. As far as no commercial flights, I really stress that. No commercial flights or businesses, and businesses that may be fractional ownership of planes or helicopters. Basically, that's a group rental of the sky benefiting from our airports. So I do not think that any commercial flights or businesses who operate their corporate jets, this includes all corporate jets, all helicopters, again, with the exception of medical emergency flights that are departing. So those are I would like to see a lot stricter noise issues on the airport. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in, Doreen. We appreciate your comments.
All right, cheers.
Unmuting the next caller. Hello, caller ending 4202. You are on the air.
Oh, good morning. Good afternoon, I'm sorry. A previous caller had mentioned the traffic that's on 3 Mile Harbor Road, and I had thought of several times
Could you state your name for the board, please?
Carrie Gilbert.
Hello, Carrie.
I live off 3 Mile Harbor Road, and a previous caller mentioned the speeding that goes on up and down 3 Mile Harbor Road, and I was wondering if anything could be done about it, because I live off 3 Mile Harbor Road by the neighborhood house, and traffic goes, they're speeding so often up and down. There's an after-school program, too, that goes on at the neighborhood house, and it's very dangerous. And I use the senior bus transportation, and some days we have to wait 2 or 3 minutes in order to get out into the 3 Mile Harbor Road. And I was wondering, was there anything that could be done about the speeding that goes up and down 3 Mile Harbor Road in that particular area? I know of that area. I don't know of the other areas, but in that area around the neighborhood house, there's a lot of traffic, and it's speeding most of the time. So thank you for listening, and thank you for all the wonderful things you're doing for our community.
Well, thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you so much, Carrie. Appreciate you calling in and letting us know about the speeding.
And one last caller so far. Hello, caller ending 8513. You are on the air. Hello, and can you please state your name for the board?
Good afternoon, members of the East Hampton Town Board. This is Tommy John Scavone, Southampton Town Councilman, calling from Sag Harbor. How are we doing today?
Very well, Tommy John. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm calling specifically in reference to Resolution 190 of 2022. This, of course, is the negative declaration for secret for your resolution to deactivate the East Hampton Town Airport. And I just want to congratulate the East Hampton Town Board for your due diligence once again on this issue. I personally know that this is a contentious issue, and it is not an easy one, and any decision is going to be, it's going to be challenging. Here in the town of Southampton, we have supported your efforts over the years through a variety of resolutions to get to this point. So, I, as a councilman individually, support your decision here and urge you to vote yes on this resolution. And keep in mind the air traffic over your neighbors to the west in the town of Southampton, particularly my constituents underneath the November route, which flies along the southern route, up through Hampton Bays, in through North Sea, Noyak, and Shinnecock. They really have received it. We estimate that we get around 19,800 flights in and out of East Hampton each year, and over 7,000 of those are helicopter flights, and those are particularly difficult for our residents. So once again, I applaud you, particularly for everything that you listed in the sixth whereas of the resolution that I had mentioned earlier. And I want to I'll conclude my remarks there and congratulate you, Supervisor, and Councilwoman Burt-Gonzalez and new Councilwoman Rogers. Well done. And I know you certainly are not new to public service in the town of East Hampton, but you're new to the board. So we look forward to working with you in the future, and we ask that you take into consideration some of the flight paths that go over your neighbors to the west. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for calling in, Tommy John, and we appreciate your service to our neighboring sister town, Southampton.
And unmuting next caller. Oh, and here we go. Hello, caller ending 3290. You're on the air. Hello.
Good afternoon, town board members. This is Tom Bogdan calling from Montauk, and I have two very short points that I'd like to make concerning the issues concerning the airport. Now, please, I'd like you to consider this first. If and when you run for re-election, or for that matter, when anyone in the United States runs for office, if they were lucky enough to get an 80% margin, that would be absolutely considered an incredible landslide, something that would be almost historically impossible to do. Now, if you go along with the mayor, East Hampton mayor's study, 77% of the East Hampton village want to keep the airport open. Now, I know positively that 100% of Montauk wants to keep the airport open. And that doesn't even take into consideration the other hamlets. So that must be far more than 80%. Now, the only difference between my example and this is that the current town board is not writing a landslide. They are proposing to be underneath that landslide. Please keep that in mind when you go to vote, in your wisdom, when you go to vote on this issue. Now, my second point is the number 5 choice just might offer a long-term objective oversight and continuous stability that you as an East Hampton board or any East Hampton board cannot guarantee. Under number 2, if the airport is under private control as you are contemplating, it becomes, the political platform will change, has the possibility to completely 100% change every 4 years in the election cycle. There is a possibility that there would be 100% new people on the town board. Now, given the vast difference of opinion in this issue, the political and the social and the monetary stakes that are at stake, such a turnover could cause incredible political crisis, political chaos, management chaos. Number 2 might offer the flexibility as an asset, but it also may also be a curse to the town of East Hampton. And as your best interest in keeping following the correct procedure for East Hampton, you must keep that in mind. The number 1 issue is to solve this problem, but also to make sure and meet the stability and essential working conditions that airport and the people of town deserve. Councilman Lees was quoted as saying this is a generational issue. And as such, your job, number one job, is to protect it, its long-range viability. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling, Tom. Appreciate your comments.
And we have one more. We have two more callers currently on the line. First one. Hello, caller ending 7563. May you state your name for the board, please?
Good day, Teresa McCaskey, South Old Town Aircraft Noise Committee. I just want to say thank you very much for all your hard work on this particular issue on behalf of the town of South Holt. Of course, the North Fork has been inundated with aircraft that was directly targeted for the North Fork, even going to Montauk. So I'd like the Montauk residents keep that in mind, that how we have been suffering for years, all thanks very much to to Blade, which I understand they applauded when Blade was at their Montauk meeting. So again, we look forward to a peaceful summer, a respectable summer by the aircraft pilots. I'm hopeful that they will understand our situation. And again, I thank the board, and I especially thank Councilwoman Overby for making that statement regarding Blade, because I have requested from the Evatol companies information with regards to how noisy the aircraft are going to be, at what altitude they're going to fly. I have asked, will they be flying over land? Will they be flying over water? Not one respectable company has responded back to say how these Evatol aircraft are going to fly. And that is a very serious concern, because if Blade believes that they have the right to fly over people's homes, beaches, wineries, by quote-unquote having quiet aircraft, you put 10 or 15 of those puppies up in the air and it's not going to be quiet, okay? It's not going to be. So I really do appreciate your efforts. I appreciate your understanding the plight of the residents on the North Fork, especially with the Eastern Region Helicopter Council generating aircraft specifically over our homes, and the seaplanes followed their same exact route for so many years. So it's a tough decision. We applaud you. We thank you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to call us, Teresa. Be well.
Okay. And unmuting next caller. Hello, caller ending 1730. May you please state your name for the board, please?
My name is Abigail Fleming, and I'm a full-time resident and property owner in Waynescott. And my property has definitely been affected by the airport noise. I tried to count one Sunday in the summer how many helicopters went by. I lost count, but it was not a problem because Monday came and they started up again. Where I stand is I oppose keeping the airport the way it is. I do not oppose closing the airport, but where I am at this moment is in the middle, probably closer to closing it. I realize that not all the airport traffic or helicopters and jets, being that members of my family are recreational pilots and fly as a hobby. So I have benefited from that probably 8 years ago. I know the airport was very different 8 years ago. But I do support the new airport plan. I want to give it a chance, and I'm hopeful that there'll be a compromise. Thank you for your time, and thanks for your hard work. Be well.
Thanks so much for calling in, Abigail. We appreciate hearing from you.
All right, and I'm muting next caller. Hello, caller ending 9300. You're on the air. Hello.
Hello. My name is Jerry Maslanka, and I'm in the village of Sag Harbor, on the end of the village, the east end of the village. And my comments today are regarding affordable housing, which I wish to express that I'm very much in favor of anything and everything we can do to increase our affordable housing. And not only in East Hampton, we need it everywhere. We need it in Southampton Town. We need it in Riverhead. All of us have to participate. And I'm right down the street from I guess it's number 776 and number 780 on Route 114, and I know the board has plans to add an, I'm going to read this, affordable housing overlay to these properties. And that's down the street from me. So I like it in my backyard too. And, you know, I was listening to the meeting all morning here, and I without hearing the other comments, I was thinking, gee, we're buying with CPF funds properties that look like they're in urban areas, and these could be used for affordable housing. And buying those things up makes the, you know, affects the supply and demand, makes the remaining developed properties more expensive. Therefore, you know, people can't afford it all the more. It seems to make the situation worse. So I was kind of in favor of what Mr. Whalen's position was with allowing that small home to be built there. It's already dense, and, you know, another small home there seems to be in keeping with what the needs are of the greater good. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for everything that you all are doing.
Thanks so much for calling in, Jerry. We appreciate hearing from you.
You too. Have a nice day.
Take care.
On that note, we have no new callers, and there you go.
Okay, at this point then, we'll move on with resolutions that need to be offered. Kathy, I believe you have the first set of resolutions.
I do, starting with Resolution 2022-149. It's approval of the warrant. 2021 claims total $1,109,574.62. 2022 claims total $618,702.52. The 2021 utility warrant totals $63,026.52, and the 2022 utility warrant totals $1,026.01.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
2022-150 is a notice of public hearing for the affordable housing overlay to be added to the premises at 776, 780, and 782 Route 114 in Waynescott. And I just want to say that 776 and 780 is owned by the town of East Hampton and occupies 6.8 acres. 782 Route 114 is owned by the Sag Harbor Community Housing Trust. That's approximately 2 acres. And all three properties are currently zoned A2 residents, and we're looking for it to have an affordable housing overlay district there. The public hearing would be March 3rd. That's a Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
2021-151 is a secret determination for the East Hampton Police Department Emergency Services Communications upgrades. And we'll be resolving that the proposed upgrade project will not have any significant adverse impacts on the environment and adopt a negative declaration. And we'll resolve further that with respect to 103 Flaggy Hole Road Tower, that we will determine is a segmented review and is due to the potential impacts of the new tower. And just so folks know, 103 Flaggy Hole Road is Camp Blue Bay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
2022-152 hires Margaret Iannacone to provide Qigong instruction for our 60-plus wellness program. The financial impact is $3,300. Margaret will be paid $75 per class.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
2022-153 is to hire Lydia Byrne to provide meditation instruction for our 60-plus wellness program. The financial impact is $2,200, and that's we'll be paying Lydia $50 per session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
2022-154 is a change in hours for Holly Miller, our assistant cook. She's going from 40 hours per week to 35 hours per week.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
155 is a notice to bidders, EH22-003, supply and delivery of groceries. And the bid is available January 20th and due back February 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 156 is a notice to bidders EH22-002, supply and delivery of frozen foods. The bid's available January 20th and due back February 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
2022-157 is a notice to bidders EH22-004, supply and delivery of dairy products. Bid is available January 20th, due back February 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 158 is to approve a facilities use agreement for training at the Ymca Aquatic Center. And this is for various lifeguard training programs, including East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue, our junior lifeguard and nipper programs, as well as lifeguard training and conditioning. That program starts this Sunday and continues on weekends through May 29th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
I'd like to offer Resolution 2022-159. This is a secret determination for the bond for park improvements for the Montauk Skate Park. The amount of the bond would be for $75,000. The secret determination is for the proposed improvements that will have any significant adverse impact, and therefore a negative declaration is to be determined.
Second.
Carol, could we please have a roll call vote?
Carol, you're muted.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilman Lees.
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Rogers.
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-160. This is a bond for $75,000 for the construction of various park improvements. And the probable period of usefulness is 5 years, and the park improvements will again be for the Montauk Park and Skate Park.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll
Roll
call.
call.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilman Lees.
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Rogers.
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-161 is authorized employee reimbursement. This will be for Matthew Norclum in the amount of $175 relating to expenses paid out for drone certification and testing requirements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Resolution 162 is amended to spell provisional correct. Provisional appointment for base management specialist 1 to Marissa Vasquez Rosante, who met the requirements. She hereby is appointed to the provisional basis on a full-time position of Bay Management Specialist 1, hourly rate $26.04, grade 24, starting step at $54,144.27 annually for a 40-hour work week to be paid bi-weekly starting February 1st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
163 is the amend resolution 2022-28, excuse me. This is where, in that resolution, Melanie Anderson was appointed to her part-time position of harbor master, effective January 1st, but at an hourly rate of $25. We need to now post that position at an hourly rate of $27.54, retroactive to January 1st, 2022.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution 164 is the water quality for 2020. This is round 2 is a grant extension. This is a grant extension for the Springs Improvement Societies for Ashwell Hall, in which they were initially funded $82,395 for IA septic system increase, and we will be extending this period for 1 calendar year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
165 is a 2021 budget modification for Fort Hill Cemetery, taking $2,000 from light and power to maintenance in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
166 is the amend resolution 2022-23. In that resolution, Michael Clancy was appointed to part-time position of Assistant Recreational Leader in Sailing to be paid the amount of $18 per hour. And Julio Polanco Soto was also appointed to part-time position of Recreational Aid to be paid $15.50 an hour. Resolved that now Michael Clancy and Julio Polanco Soto be and are hereby appointed to their titles listed above, but now at an hourly rate of $20.50 with no change in schedule or budget office, effective retroactively to January 1st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
2022-167, accept the bid EH21042 for the Lars Simonson Skate Park renovations and improvements for American Rent Company, where we the town solicited bids for EH21042. The bid of American Rent Company was the lowest bid received meeting the bid specifications, whereas the bid submitted had been reviewed by Jeannie Carosa, senior purchasing agent, outside consulting, and attorneys have now recommended the award of the bid to the lowest responsive bidder. The bid for American Rent Company is hereby accepted for a total cost of $1,410,369.50 for items 1 through 5 and 7, taken from the appropriate funding line.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Thank you all.
Indeed, that's quite an amazing effort on behalf of community members collecting.
Awesome.
Nearly all of that money to fund the update. This is just a great example.
And thank the board and thank the town staff and John Britton and Skate Park Coalition. We look forward to moving it forward.
And David, thank you.
Oh, that's minimal. Thank you. Okay, cool. I'd like to offer man, I'm excited about that. I'd like to offer Resolution 2022-168 and notice the bidders for EH22005 for the Maloney property bamboo removal bid available. This is the bid is available from 1/27/22. The bid is due back on 2/24/22. Any information can please contact our senior purchasing agent at 324-4141. A pre-bid meeting on the site will be held at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 at 888 Springs Fireplace Road, East Hampton. Attendance is strongly suggested.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-169 is a notice of bidders for EH22006. This is for the Atlantic Avenue Beach Concession. The bid is available on January 27th, 2022. The bid is due back February 17th, 2022. Specifications are available at the purchasing department by emailing purchasing@ehamptonny.gov or contacting the purchasing department at 324-4141.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-170 is an increase the cap to outside counsel 2021 for the law offices of Khan and Khan. We initially retained them in Resolution 2021-263 on February 18th, 2021 to be outside counsel to represent the town in various matters, including the long-lasting Ron Barron case. The allotted amount at that time was $30,000, and we would like to require a cap increase of $5,000, constituting a total of $35,000 for calendar year 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-171 is the transfer of development rights, Village of East Hampton, at 14 Pleasant Lane in East Hampton Village, which lands are identified on the Suffolk County tax map. Pursuant to New York town law, the acquisition of subject property also included the acquisition of development rights and the right of the town to transfer such rights to a future date. The Village of East Hampton requested the transfer of sewage flow credits for the purposes of affordable housing to a site in the village at 106 Newtown Lane in order to comply with the Suffolk County Health Department, and resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute. Again, Tom's Rule Department community development will be monitoring this TDR asset and the affordable housing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 2022-172 is to reimburse a notary fees for Linda Norris. The reimbursement check would total $75.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Thanks, Sylvia.
And I have a resolution 22-173 to increase the cap for the law office of James Ryan Esquire, 2021. Whereas the town of East Hampton required the services of outside counsel to represent the town and advise the town in matters concerning tax and tax assessment for the 2021 calendar year. Litigation is still pending, therefore be it resolved that the law offices of James Ryan Esquire is hereby retained to continue to represent the town in connection with said litigation. And take all unnecessary action on behalf of the town in coordination with the town attorney. And be it resolved that an increase in fees is required and such fees shall be capped at $5,000, constituting a total of $40,000. And be it further resolved that payment to said counsel shall be $200 per hour in an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 174 is to authorize removal of real property at 54 Industrial Road from the airport layout plan and authorize the sale of the property subject to permissive referendum. And that amount of the sale is $1,665,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 175 is to set the 2022 compensation for part-time employees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 176 is a payout upon retirement for Charles Hobson. Resolved the Finance Office is authorized to issue check for payout, and that is in the amount of $25,436 for vacation time, sick time in the amount of $29,901.68, personal time in the amount of $4,329.65 for a gross total payout of $59,668.05. And that's upon final payout for Charles Hobson. And I want to thank Charles Hobson, who was retired from the full-time position as police detective for East Hampton Town Police Department for his many years of excellent service to the town. We wish you the very best in your retirement and look forward to seeing you around town, hopefully.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agree. Congrats, Earl.
Passed and carried. Resolution 177 is to approve retention of AKRF Incorporated by Whiteman Osterman Hanna LLP for assistance in environmental analysis of the transition of the East Hampton Airport from a public use airport to a private use airport and the development of regulations with regard to the same.
Second.
I was just going to add that that will be paid out of the airport fund. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 178 is authorization of advances for authorizing borrowing. Resolve the budget office has the authority to advance money appropriate needed under the provisions of section 165.10 in relation to all bond authorizations adopted by the town board for 2022 or prior, and that the appropriate records be kept, all monies advanced, be repaid to the original source within 15 days.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 179 is to authorize payment to registered nurse Brenda Ragone, and that is not to exceed $400 for services performed October 8th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 180 is to increase the cap for Sokoloff Stern LLP for Rento versus Town of East Hampton et al. And that is resolved that The amount shall not exceed $12,000.
Second.
And that's an increase of $2,000.
Can we just look at this a second? Because the headline says Sokoloff Stern, but when you look at the first resolved, it says Devitt Spellman Barrett.
Oh, I see it.
John, you want to help us with that one?
I'd have to check. Did it come from our office even, or is it from finance?
It's a town
Just town attorney.
I have to check with Christina.
We'll table this one, or we'll put it.
I'll set it aside for a minute, and I'll go chat with her while you guys finish.
Okay. It looks like there might have been a cut and paste error.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably what happened. Let me check.
Okay, moving on. Resolution 181 is to retain medical collections firm past due medical contributions. Valor Enterprises Incorporated and resolve Valor Enterprises Incorporated hereby retain and perform collections past due medical coverage contributions at a rate of, it says 20% in parentheses 35. So I don't know what's wrong with this one either.
I'll reach out to Jeannie. Let's hold up on that one too.
Yeah, unfortunately, my computer was down the other day and I wasn't able to review any of these before they went forward. So I think they just automatically got approved. 182 is to retain, let's see, bear with me just a minute. I'll make a note. 182 is to retain environmental engineer South Fork Export Cable 2022. And that as a result, Town Board hereby authorizes FPM to provide environmental engineering consulting services to the town at the current labor rate and at a cost not to exceed $7,000 in connection with South Fork Wind.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
Peter, I've got the answer to 181.
Okay.
So
is it 20% or is it 35%?
It's 35%.
Okay, so I'll entertain a second as amended.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Okay, I think that brings us up to Resolution 183, revised Resolution 2021-1421, authorized agreement, Microsoft Enterprise EHT Police Department, Marine Patrol. Resolved, the town of East Hampton hereby authorizes subscription to Microsoft Enterprise software set forth in a quote of LA Dell Marketing at a cost of $18.85 per user for up to 120 users. That's for including the East Hampton Police Department and Marine Patrol for a period of 3 years. Supervisors hereby authorized to sign the contract the same. And the total amount on an annual basis not to exceed $27,144 per year, period commencing January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass and carry. Resolution 184, 2021, budget modification, town attorney, and that is moving from office equipment in the amount of $165 to lease equipment in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass and carry. Resolution 2022-185, accept bid EH 21046, annual contract for glass replacement and repair work for automobiles, trucks, and equipment, Safe Light Fulfillment Incorporated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass and carry. Resolution 2022-186 is authorized timekeeper software, the East Hampton Town Police Department for year 2022, and resolve that Schedule Soft Corp. Provision of Denver for workforce management, police department, annual cost of $5,355 for the year 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 187 is home rule request in support of State Senate Bill S 4027, Assembly Bill A 4219.
Second.
Regarding speed limit. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 188 is to accept proposal of LK McLean Associates and 2022 budget modification.
Second.
And just want to read the amounts here.
Sorry.
Consulting engineer has provided a proposal, a cost of $127,000, and LIPA has agreed to fund the cost in two phases. Phase one at $67,000 and phase two at $60,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
John, do we have information on that one?
Yes, it's Circle of Stern, and the matter is Beretta. So it should be Circle of Stern.
So I make a motion to accept with the changes to Sokoloff Stern.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Additional resolutions.
I have a resolution 2022-189 to offer. This is a resolution to amend Chapter 255-550, Affordable Housing Development Site Considerations. This is what we discussed on Tuesday, in which we make the changes to allow the number of units per 20,000 square feet up to four units per acre. This is going to be setting a public hearing. The public hearing would be set for March 3rd, 2022 at 2 p.m.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 190, the SECRA negative declaration to deactivate East Hampton Airport. And let me read some of these resolves here. Resolved, the town board declares itself SECRA lead agency for review and any changes to the status of the airport, any future changes in operations at the airport, the new airport, and be it further resolved that town board, after careful review and consideration, hereby adopts the attached SECRA negative declaration, Appendix A, in relationship to the following FAA procedures for pursuing option 2 as set forth in the FAA's November 2020 letter. And be it further resolved that in the respect to the long-term operation of the new airport, the town's airport consultants are directed to prepare a full EAF, positive declaration, and draft scoping outline for review and approval of the town board, and scheduling a public comment period and public meeting, therefore, in or about February of 2022. And be it further resolved that the town will file the appropriate Form 7480-1 with the FAA to initiate deactivation of the airport and opening a private new airport, and work in conjunction with the FAA to complete the status change. And be it further resolved that the town attorney and the town airport consultants assist the town clerk in drafting, publishing, and circulating required SECRA and other notices as applicable.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Can we have a roll call, Carol?
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilman Lees,
Under great discussion and advice of council and discussion with the board and listening to the public, I vote aye.
Councilwoman Overby,
Aye.
Councilwoman Rogers,
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye. Passed and carried. I just want to make a brief comment. The town board, as it's constituted today, two of us have been working on airport issues to resolve longstanding problems that the community has faced regarding the airport for a decade. Sylvia and I, Kathy Burke Gonzalez has been on the town board now for 8 years and has been working hard as the town's liaison for 4 of those years on airport issues. David Lees has been on the board now for 4 years and has spent a great deal of time as well reviewing, including drafting legislation for seaplanes. I think this is a really important step that we're making here today, where we finally, as a town, will assert control over an airport that we've owned but have had no ability to regulate. We've had no cooperation from outside agencies or from aviation interests to regulate it through much of that time. And it's only now that the grant assurances having expired that we can assert our authority And we look forward to working with the community to address the longstanding concerns and impacts of the airport and to balance this airport in a way that really reflects the town's, the community standards and protects our quality of life, our environment, and provides positive amenities that an airport can provide. We look forward to this ongoing work with the community. We expect to have significant regulations in place ahead of the summer season to begin confronting these issues. We want to do so in a way that is comprehensive and protects all residents within the township, from Waynescott to Montauk. For me, this is an exciting time and the culmination of an extremely great deal of work that has been put into this by so many different people, outside consultants, et cetera. So we again look forward to moving forward to address community concerns, and I hope that we can in fact balance this airport to a level that the community accepts and that we don't have to move forward with closure. We have one more resolution, I believe, to offer.
I would like to offer resolution ID 27305. This is setting a public hearing for the East Hampton wastewater disposal district dissolution, please. The public hearing will be set for February 17th, 2022 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
We need a roll call.
We need a roll call.
Need a roll call?
And John, it doesn't need to say that it needs to be at 11 a.m., which David added in the.
It is in there.
It's in the notice, in the published notice.
Okay, because it's not in the headline there.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilman Lees,
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby,
Aye.
looking at pictures instead of paying attention. Councilwoman Rogers,
Aye.
Supervisor Vance, go ahead.
Aye. Passed and carried. Are there any other resolutions to offer?
I make a motion that we go into exec session for CPF personnel and advice of counsel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. To reconvene at 2:15. Does that work?
Can we make it sooner? Or can we go into exec right now? Is that possible?
Is that okay with the other board members?
Sure.
I brought a lunch, so it doesn't matter to me.
I just need to, yeah, we could just have a 5-minute break. In
Yeah,
between.
so I'll send around the link and we'll reconvene very shortly.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe, be well. Thank you, LTV.